Welcome back. We're talking about the developments in Brazilian politics after the president held onto his job barely after Congress voted to drop corruption charges. Now let's focus on the future. Brazil has general elections in 2018 when Brazilians will elect the president, all the state governors, the House of Representatives, and 2/3 of the Senate. How will sentiment of frustration of the political class, you know, this whole sense, Paulo, of the political class all being corrupt, if you like, play into this election? This is a real watershed election, isn't it?
Yes, you know, I think that what could create some new events in Brazil in terms of protests, in terms of popular reaction, is if the political class tries to undermine the car wash operation.
Now remind us what car wash is.
Car wash is the investigation on corruption, massive systemic corruption that is started with Petrobras. There was a
the state oil company.
The state oil company was assaulted by the tune of $3.5 billion in construction companies in Brazil in collusion with government people, and this has been going on. Tens of people have been found guilty in jail. So Brazil, once the country of impunity, no more, is a country where institutions are reasonably working. Actually, Brazil is gaining some respect internationally for the way it not only it's investigating corruption at home, but cooperating with other countries like the United States, like Switzerland, like Peru, Ecuador, and others that where some acts of corruption have taken place, acts of corruption by Brazilian companies that were condoned by the Brazilian state. So there is a silver lining in this, but Brazil has to get out of this hole, and it depends on a political negotiation. It depends on pressures building from society. We have, I think, a collective wisdom in Brazil. We are very practical people. And you saw from those two interviews, people are not going to go to the streets. They don't feel represented by this bunch of politicians. So people are waiting that the process produces some leadership that could present change. And I think that we'll have to wait and see. There is no way of predicting this right now.
Okay, Joel, do you see change on the horizon for next year's election, or is it more of the same? I mean, you and Marita hinted that the politicians are trying to sort of keep things a little bit the same, so they hang on to power.
Exactly. The people are deeply skeptical of all political parties. They want change. They're not willing to go violent, but they do want change. But the political parties themselves, they're organizing to make this change almost impossible by changing election laws and in ways that it is more in control of those who currently hold office and the stronger political parties. So they're trying actively to stop change from coming. You see, we have some newcomers who could present some hope, others who might raise the fear of Brazil going into a populist direction. But most of all, I think the big winner in all of this will be the very disappointing result that traditional politics, as usual, will continue to go on, and skepticism with the role of government will continue to grow.
Marita, do you agree that's the outlook for the 2018 elections? And pick up on Paulo's point about the corruption. Is that a silver lining? Do people actually believe in the process? In China, for example, they've been going after tigers, top leaders, as well as flies, lower-level leaders, and that is incredibly popular. Is that the same in Brazil when it comes to corruption?
Well, I think that people in Brazil, the majority of the population, are very much for the car wash operation. They support it. They are proud of it. It represents a big change in our history, really. We have been seeing people doing awful things for a long time, for decades, and nobody ever went to prison, and that's different now. Of course, politicians have their own rules, and they protect themselves by those rules, and they want to keep it that way. What I think about the elections, I think that it depends on how the economy evolves. Of course, we have room for populism, and we have room for people who are not very well known now. For instance,
Is there a Donald Trump in the wings, a Brazilian Donald Trump?
Yes, maybe, possibly. That's a possibility. It depends on the economy. If it's terrible, then this kind of thing might happen. But I think that I was coming here and I found out that the volleyball coach, who is a very popular person, is going to run for governor, our former volleyball coach. So I think that's the sort of thing we're going to see next year because people are really tired of this, the traditional politicians.
So is this right? We're going to see volleyball coaches, football players, maybe?
He was a wonderful player.
For governor of Rio de Janeiro.
Yes, and
governor of Rio de Janeiro.
But is this where Brazilian politics is going, in a more populist way, Paulo?
I don't know. It's very hard to say. You could have a person like Marina Silva, former minister, former senator, emerging because she is respected, she is recognized, respected,
clean.
Clean. She ran twice for the presidency, got about 20% in the first round. So if Marina can evolve from a leader of a movement to a person that is consequential, that can build a coalition, I think people could recognize her as an alternative. But Marita and Joel are absolutely correct. The moment right now is one of uncertainty. We don't know, but I have this hope that we will remain in this mode of looking for a solution in a peaceful way, in a negotiated way. This is the Brazilian way. It has been. Sometimes we get very frustrated. We say, oh man, we should have some rupture here. Better not. I think that, but the situation is very frustrating for most people. And in the meantime, we have 13 million people looking for work. You have companies ready to invest.
This is what my next question was going to be to Joel. So obviously there's a regional and international implication for this stasis that you're seeing politically, is that, you know, there's a lot of investment opportunities in Brazil. China, of course, has been a big investor. Is this affecting the investment environment, the growth environment, the jobs environment in Brazil?
It is. This uncertainty affects it very strongly because people don't know yet if the reforms are going to pass through. This pensions reform, which is a necessary piece in the effort for the government to adjust its own accounts, must pass. And right now, it's being step by step a little bit decreased in importance and sabotaged, actually, because it's decreasing in the total value that it's going to save from public coffers. So I think investors are waiting to see if this specific reform goes through, and if it does, then we'll have a better climate for investment. We are now living through a very slight recovery, so I think the worst of the crisis is behind us. But I do not see a very fast recovery on the way. It all depends basically on the government's success in adjusting its own accounts.
Marita, I want to pick up with the president himself. Michel Temer has got a big couple of months on the world stage. There's the BRICS summit in China, and then immediately after that, as tradition dictates, we also have the UN General Assembly, where, as you know, the Brazilians always are the first to speak. As a weakened president, what is going to be his message on the global stage?
Believe in Brazil. We are evolving. We are going forward. We are trying to get better, to make our economy better.
Right.
So invest in us. I think he'll try to say that.
So he's going to be an ambassador.
Let's see if the numbers help him. For 4 months now, we have the employment has grown. That's something, really, after all we've been through. 4 months in a row with employment going up. But I read that they're going to announce next Monday that they're going to raise the fiscal target, which is very bad. So we are waiting to see what's going to happen to the economy. But the Congress is not willing to help in terms of the Social Security reform. It's going to be a tough deal.
Hello, just a final word. Do you think Temer can be on the world stage with any impact, given his low approval ratings and the fact there's essentially a lame duck?
Well, he is the president of Brazil, which
Right.
is a substantial nation. So in that role, he can. It's going to be one more lost opportunity for Brazilian, for the nation, because there isn't much to really to present right now. He has no credibility at home, so he will not have much credibility in the world stage.
And your prediction for the elections next year?
I don't have one. I hope that someone like Marina Silva will emerge. We need decency, we need honesty in government in Brazil. This is the popular demand.
Really interesting discussion. You know, it's not often we do.
I think Geraldo Alckmin has a shot.
Oh, okay.
that.
These are names.
Alckmin, the
We're going to
governor
have
of
you
São
guys
Paulo,
back,
has a
and
shot.
we're going to see who emerges. But it's fascinating discussion. It's not often we can do a show this long on Brazilian politics. I really appreciate it, Paulo, Marita, and Joel as well. Thanks so much for joining us. That's all we have time for.